Hello, guys. Welcome to Critical Thinking and Practical Reasoning, and we are still on Unit 2 Varieties and Anatomy of an Argument. This session, we are treating formal fallacies. We aim to define formal fallacies, identify the various formal fallacies, and learn to avoid committing formal fallacies as critical thinking students. We've already defined formal fallacies and known the types of fallacies from Unit 1, Session 6. But here we see fallacies again. So we repeat the definition of a fallacy. It's an error in reasoning, as we already know. But now we can see today we are focusing on formal fallacies. A formal fallacy is where an error emerges in the structure of an argument, which creates an invalid pattern. And usually, if it's creating an invalid pattern, this kind of error is normally found in a deductive argument. So let's jump on board and take a good look. Now, these formal fallacies we are going to treat are actually contrasts of basic logical forms, which we've already discussed from some previous session. I think unit 2 session 1, where we discussed basic logical forms. Under basic logical forms, we said there are 4 of them that we discussed, and they are all deductive and valid. We did modus ponens, modus tollens, hypothetical syllogism, and disjunctive syllogism. However, in this session, we are going to treat formal fallacy, which are errors of structural errors of those ones that those basic logical forms. Let's look at the first of them. We call this affirming the consequent, which is otherwise known as converse error. The structure says if P, then Q. Q, therefore P. If P happens, then Q will follow. Q followed, therefore P happened. Now, this we consider as an error. If you watch, some people other times call it the opposite of modus ponens. But then you can see this error here is because to say that Q has happened, immediately you necessarily indicate Q, it doesn't mean that P will necessarily follow, right? Because you give a condition that if P, then Q. If you mention Q, doesn't mean P will follow, right? So it doesn't go in that direction. So let's look at the example that we have. It says, if there is a plane crash, then people died. People died. Therefore, there has been a plane crash. As you can see, this example affirms the consequent. So knowing that it affirms the consequence, it creates an invalidity, right? People can die and there will be a plane crash afterwards. So this is considered as an invalid argument. Let's look at the next one. We have denying the antecedent, which is other times called the inverse error. It reads, if P, then Q. Not Q, therefore not Q. And the example we have here says, if the students are brilliant, they will pass. The students are not brilliant, therefore the students did not pass. This also commits an error. Now, you should know perfectly that from modus tollens, if you are denying, then you deny the consequent, you don't deny the antecedent. So in this case, where the antecedent is being denied, it actually doesn't follow that the consequent will consequently be denied. The next we have is hypothetical fallacy, and it reads that if P, then Q, if Q, then R. Therefore, if P, then R. The example we have says, if the kids are good, they will sleep early. If the kids sleep early, they will be fine. Therefore, if the kids are good, they will be fine. I think these examples are quite easy, and You can write any of them. You can write a sample for yourself if you want to, but it will be quite advisable to try your hands on them. And you should note that these are all invalid examples. Or so this session, interestingly, has been a sequel to the basic logical forms we studied in Unit 2, Session 1. The basic logical forms are deductive valid arguments, but their contraries, which are discussed here as formal fallacies, are deductive invalid arguments. Thanks for your time, and it was great having you. Thank you very much. Bye bye.